His temperament, sometimes far from easygoing, yet always vivid and unforgettable, had become the cornerstone of his deep affection for his wife. With this woman, brimming with life and endlessly inventive, he never felt a moment of boredom from the very first time they met. Their life together rarely involved passive evenings in front of the TV. Instead, they traveled, learned new things, embarked on daring experiments, argued passionately, and made playful bets. His wife embodied restless energy, and her ideas were often extreme, even outright provocative. He was continually amazed not only by her imagination but also by her sheer fearlessness. And now, he wanted to share one such unexpected escapade. A month ago, his father-in-law wasn't just celebrating a birthday, he was marking a milestone anniversary. Taking advantage of the beautiful summer weather, he decided to celebrate his 50th birthday at their country house. Naturally, our hero and Yulia were among the 20 or so invited guests. They arrived early in the morning. Yulia was immediately dispatched to the kitchen to help prepare the festive dishes, while he was roped into running errands, everything from heavy labor to the tiniest trivial tasks. Refusing would have been impolite, especially on such a significant occasion. After about 2 hours, thoroughly exhausted, they happily escaped to the nearby river for a swim. His mischievous companion, of course, bathed nude, playfully teasing him. When they climbed back onto the shore, he proudly showed her a bottle he'd discreetly snatched from his father-in-law's kitchen. They quickly emptied it together, basking in the sun. His imagination was already running wild, until Yulia surprised him yet again. She raised her hand to stop him. "Not so fast," she said. "Let's do this tonight. I want you on edge the whole time. I've got a plan." "As you wish," he replied, clearly disappointed. "But soon there'll be a house full of older folks, and that's not exactly going to keep me on edge." "I know how to get your attention," she said, standing up and slipping into her dress. They returned to the house just as guests began to arrive. No one bothered delaying the festivities, and neither did Yulia and he. The guests were dressed in all manner of styles. Some arrived in shorts, others changed into jeans and t-shirts, while a few even stayed in crisp white shirts and ties. It was a jubilee, after all. But everyone noticed the transformation of his mother-in-law. Irina Viktorovna had spent the whole day in an apron, but by the time guests arrived, she'd changed into a rather revealing dress with a deep neckline, surprisingly bold for her age. Every man present kept circling around her, stealing glances down her cleavage. And she seemed to encourage them deliberately, laughing loudly one moment, dancing the next. "The apple doesn't fall far from the tree," he thought, watching how similarly, and provocatively, his mother-in-law and his wife behaved. They both seemed to lose all inhibition, as if every last restraint had vanished. His father-in-law scolded his wife several times, and after one particularly energetic dance, he approached her and spoke sternly for nearly half a minute. Finally, he winked at her, and Irina Viktorovna immediately disappeared toward the house. "Come on." Yulia grabbed his hand and pulled him to the farthest corner of the property, where the bedroom windows of his in-laws overlooked the fence. "You're about to see a real show," she whispered, noticing his puzzled expression. Quietly and carefully, they overturned 2 large water barrels and climbed onto them. It had grown dark outside, so when Irina Viktorovna turned on the light in the bedroom, she couldn't see what was happening beyond her window, but she was fully visible to them. "I'm certain it'll happen exactly as it did before," Yulia said. Her cryptic remark still puzzled him. Meanwhile, without wasting a second, his wife began undressing, first her dress, then everything else. Soon, his mother-in-law appeared in the window, completely naked, and he couldn't tear his eyes away. But when he glanced at Yulia, he saw a mischievous glint in her eyes. "She's spying on her own mother like a teenage boy," he thought, but he couldn't stop watching either. His astonishment only grew when his mother-in-law pulled another dress from the closet and began putting it on. It was an unusual black number, fastened by a full-length zipper running straight down her back. With some effort, she wriggled into it, now clad entirely in black. "She'll go to the far corner of the yard," behind the shed, and wait for Dad there. Remember how he whispered in her ear? He was telling her what to do and where to go. They've done this several times before, and you've watched every time. You know how much it turns you on. He didn't need to ask, everything forbidden thrilled her deeply. But what his wife said next caught him completely off guard, even from someone as inventive as Yulia. Let me distract Dad, and you go in his place. How could that possibly work without anyone noticing? He asked doubtfully. Come on, I'll show you. Yulia pulled him along once more. Indeed, a shadow flickered in the yard's far corner. Her black dress blended perfectly into the cloudy, starless night. Loud laughter and music echoed from the party, but near the small shed, it was relatively quiet. Yulia peeked around the corner first, then turned to him with a smile. She's there, standing exactly as before. I'll distract Dad. You've got 10 minutes. Before he could even process it, she dashed off toward the buffet table, and he, as if hypnotized, walked toward his mother-in-law. She stood leaning against a small stack of firewood. Glancing around cautiously, he approached from behind and placed his hands on her waist. Irina Viktorovna flinched. Igor, finally, she murmured. I'll pretend to be my father-in-law, flashed through his mind, and he unzipped her dress. The act felt so unusual, so electrifying, that he forgot all caution. He mumbled something unintelligible. Andrei? Is that you? His mother-in-law exclaimed. Quiet. They'll hear us. Igor will be here any minute, go. At that moment, it seemed this was her greatest concern. Yet she didn't move from her position. No, Yulia's keeping him busy, he replied briefly. That reassured Irina Viktorovna. They certainly didn't finish within 10 minutes, but apparently, his wife had done her part well, and his father-in-law was still nowhere in sight. When it was over, his mother-in-law remained motionless. He thought she might be upset, even hurt. But suddenly, she turned her head and whispered, "Come back here again in an hour."